Hey guys, so today I'm going to show you how to pose couples. Hi, my name is MR.DASANTE. I'm a fashion content creator who models for fashion brands and teaches men and women how to pose for photos. I'm going to share some of this experience now by teaching you how to pose couples and how to go from this to this. So you're a couple together and you want to learn how to take photos, but you just don't know how to take them. So the question is, what do you do to add some finesse? Today, I'm with the lovely Mia, who has amassed over 1 million followers for her work as a curvy model, and she's taken the internet by storm. So usually when you're taking photos as a couple, the best thing to do is to start with the safe shots. So what I mean by this is when you first start taking photos as a couple, the best thing to do is to look into the camera and to smile. That just starts off the groove. Now, all this depends on what you're shooting for. For example, engagement shots, wedding shots will vary and will differ from couple shots, for example. So when taking photos as a couple, it's very important that the man has one of his hands in his pocket and one hand around the hip of the lady. So first of all, if you're a couple and you want your audience to know that you're in a relationship, there always has to be some level of intimacy. To do this, it's very important that both the man and the lady are facing each other at some points. So let's start with this, right? So me and Mia are standing next to each other. We're both going to turn at a 45-degree angle towards each other. So let's do that. Okay, so now our shoulders need to touch each other. Our left shoulder, her right shoulder, like this. Then my hand around her waist or hip, and then her hand around me. And then she needs to bend her arm on her waist. And then my hand needs to be in my pocket, like this. So this is the first pose, guys. So we have established the male pose, and which is by turning at a certain angle. And also as the male, when you're in that position, you need to make sure that your leg is bent, right? And the lady needs to make sure, in Mia's case, her left leg is bent at an angle to get into the pose, right? Like this. Because this is the common denominator. But if Mia wants to show more curve, right? And to show more, some people say, junk in the trunk, she can place her right foot forward, right? And then let's say we go into this position like this. So yeah, it looks good for her curve, but Mia, what do you notice about this pose?
I think it makes the attention more on me rather than the fact that we're a couple, which isn't great for a couple picture.
Right, so basically there's a lack of intimacy there. So yeah, it visually looks great because it brings out her curve. However, we don't look like we're in a relationship. We're not. So with the first pose, the way to do this is to turn our bodies facing each other, come in closer, put one arm around each other, bend the knee, hand on hips. So let's start from scratch. So Mia, copy what I'm doing. Let's stand shoulder to shoulder, like this, like we're soldiers, even though we're not. And then let's stand flat-footed, like penguins, right? Okay, so we're a couple, but the question is, do we actually look like a couple? Do we look like a couple?
No, not
We look like, why? Because we look like we're waiting to, on the front line going to war. So this is not how you stand when you're taking photos as a couple. So now we have established that that's not the type of pose we do, standing flat-footed like this. If you want a bit more finesse, it's better to stand at an angle, 45 degrees, come on, copy me, Mia, mirror me, like this. Hand in pocket, right? She's gonna stay like this for the meantime. I put my hand around her, she puts her hand around me, like this, right? But then she puts the web of her hand, on the thinnest part of her waist. Why? Because this brings out more of a curve. So Mia is looking great in this pose because she is also turning her body away from the light. The light is obviously coming from this direction, but also she's bending her knee, which brings out her curve. So like I said before, the man should have one hand in his pocket, turn at a 45-degree angle, and his hand around her waist. But the question is this all you do? Because right now you want to show more emotion. So the question is, what else must you do to show more emotion, to show you guys are actually in a relationship? To do this, when posing in the pose position I mentioned before, it is better for him to lean his head forward and lean more into Mia and then bend my front knee and then take the shot. Now there is so much more finesse. So now we have that foundation, and literally me and Mia have gone from looking stoic to having some sort of movement and finesse. Another pose you can try as a couple is to come in close like before, 45-degree angle, bend your knee, hand in pocket, hand on waist. Actually, you don't need to put your hand on waist. You know why? Because she's going to hold my hand, right? But she's going to hold my hand not like this, yeah? Not like this, not firm like this. It's not two men holding hands, right? I'm holding a lady's hand. So you got to look more classy. So princess hold, like this, like you're about to dance bachata, If you like videos like this, don't forget to click the link in the description to have access to my posing guide to take your photos to a next level. But a mistake to avoid, right, when I'm holding Mia's hand is not to hold it like this. Okay, Mia, act awkward with me. So what do you guys notice? You notice her hand, her arm is closer to her bust, right? But then it makes her arm look bigger. This is not good. We don't want this look. When we're taking photos for couples, it is better to leave a gap between her arm and her body so then there's a bit of a silhouette showing. So never forget that posing for the camera is one thing, but posing at an angle will change the whole perspective of what's going on. Remember that there's going to be some poses that are going to look good at certain angles and some poses are not. But that's up for you to decide. The way to assess if the angle looks good is to ask yourself some basic questions. For example, as the dude, right, I can ask questions like, is the photo taken at an angle that's too low, that shows my double chin? Is the angle that we're showing too much of my gut and my gut is like falling on the floor, you know what I'm saying? So anything to do with that, you need to ask yourself questions. Do I look handsome? Do I look good at this angle? For the lady, for example, Mia will be more focused on her dress. You know, does her dress bring her out in the best light? You know, does it show more of the curve, etc. So guys, pay attention. So as you saw in the video that I just showed you, our heads are together, but they're not head on. We're not like two bulls raging into each other. We're not like this, right? No. So basically, it has to be tilted at an angle. So, I'm gonna put my hand like this. Like that. Because then you can see both our faces and the emotion that we're expressing. You can also try the head-on-head pose with some sort of variation. The woman can gently put her hand on the man's chest, but her hand must be curved a bit. Another pose you can try is another variation, but without your heads touching and both your heads are turned towards the camera. Another posing tip is the kiss on the cheek pose, where the man kisses the cheek and the lady's head is tilted towards the camera. So, we are shooting in the studio and the light is actually coming from this direction. So when we pose, we need to pose according to the light source. So, on to the next question. When it comes to posing, what else can be done with the hands to show intimacy? Lean facing each other, the lady places her hand on the man's ear and the man puts his hand on her waist. As usual, I had a great time filming with Mia.
Thank you for having me.
Let us know in the comments which was your favorite pose. Now we're at the end of the video and I'm going to show you all 10 poses that we shot so then you guys can practice. Always remember, it's already a no if you don't try. Stay blessed.